welcome to Money, 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 your weekly personal finance date with me, Surabhi Upadhyay. ULIPs. Now, this acronym almost became synonymous with something bad, almost a bad word in the investment landscape a couple of years ago. However, over the last few years, there have been several changes. Charges have come down. And of course, there is the big differentiator, LTCG, or the long-term capital gains tax, which is right now levied on mutual funds, but not on the insurance sector. So we get back to the debate. Is there some merit in looking at unit-linked insurance products which promise you protection as well as some market returns? That is exactly what we will talk about on the show today. And helping us decode this mystery is financial planning expert Manoj Nagpal. Manoj, great to have you in the studios. Thank you for taking out the time. And I must say that I think I am touching a slightly controversial topic because there have been lots of purists and lots of experts on this show itself who have always advocated keeping investment and protection absolutely separate. So investment via mutual funds and other instruments and protection via insurance. So it's term plans and mutual funds. Are you saying that that purist approach is perhaps not the only way to be?
Well, the ULIP industry in India started in around 2004, so it's a 15-year history. And as any industry progresses, over a period of time, ULIPs have seen significant amount of change, some driven by regulation and some driven by the industry itself. So in the initial part of the phase from 2004 to almost 2012, well, ULIPs were a badly constructed product in India. The charges were extremely high. Investors were going in a direction where, you know, the amount of charges they used to pay used to, at some point of time, used to be as high as 70% of the premium paid. Now, that obviously led to a lot of mis-selling in the industry, and that's where was the time when ULIPs got a very bad name. The regulator took a note of this around 2012 and came out with the new ULIP guidelines in 2013. Now that brought ULIPs into reckoning at that point of time, wherein they specified what is the overall cost structure that can be limited. So they put limits on each of the various cost structures that is there. And over a broad period of time, they also said that over 10 years, 15 years, the difference between a gross return that a ULIP generates and the net investor returns that are there cannot be substantially higher. So it's as low as 3 to 2% as time progresses. So that was the inflection point for the ULIP industry. And over a period of time, the industry itself has now taken itself forward and made ULIPs a very efficient product.
Okay, well, I guess regulation has streamlined a lot of these issues that you spoke of. Let's talk about the present and let's break down this product threadbare in terms of how it is created, what is the cost structure, because I know for a fact there are several charges. There is mortality charge, there are premium allocation charges, there's of course the fund management expense or the fund management fee. What am I missing? I'm sure there are some 3-4 more sort of heads under this.
Sure.
So help us understand how this product, first of all, is constructed and what the costs are.
Yeah, sure. So when you first look at a ULIP, the first thing you need to understand, there are ULIPs of two types. That's by definition. One is a type 1 ULIP. In a type 1 ULIP, you will basically get the sum assured, that is what you insure for, and plus the fund value. So you got both of them. Most of the ULIPs in India are type 2 ULIPs, and that's the trend globally also, wherein you get either the sum assured or the fund value, whichever is higher. So that's the first distinction one should understand, and one should usually prefer the type 2 ULIP. Type 1 ULIP actually compares with the term and mutual fund. But there obviously the charges are a little higher. Now let's go to the specific charge heads. The big charge heads in a ULIP are, first is the premium allocation charge, the second is the fund management cost, the third is the policy administration cost, the fourth is the mortality cost, and then there are a lot of small charges like the surrender charge, discontinuance charge, but those are very limited in nature. So these are the big four heads.
The big four charges, right?
Yeah. So what used to happen is that the premium allocation charge is the big demon out here, which earlier used to be, as I said, as high as 60 to 70% of the charges. Now, what it means is that if you pay a premium of 100 rupees, 70% used to get deducted, and it used to go as charges towards either distributor commission or the insurance company used to keep it. So you're actually investing only 30 rupees into the product, and out of that, then the other charges like fund management charge. So that was the first thing the regulator tackled, and they said that it has to be brought down. So over a period of 5 years, the first 5 years of the policy, this premium allocation charge all put together cannot be more than 20%. So that's the first good point that they did.
So 20% of your premium can go towards this premium allocation charge. out of the 100 rupees
Yeah.
premium that you're paying, and this is a recurring sort of phenomena. So if typically it's a 5-year product, and if you are paying the premium in a recurring fashion, then every year that would be the premium allocation charge, or do they taper off with the...
So what the regulator did in 2012 is that they come out with guidelines which they said that the difference between the gross return and the net return that an investor earns after 5 years cannot be 4% every year. That translates into 4 into 5, that is 20%. So effectively it means that either in the first year or tapering for the first 5 years, all the charges put together cannot be 20%. So what most of the people typically do is that either they charge 4% every year, or some of them may go as high as 10% in the first year and then taper it down to 2.
Okay.
So, earlier, as I said, it was, 50 to 70% charges. That has now come down to between the range of 4 to 10% in the first year, and slowly it tapers off.
Okay, so that's the premium allocation charge.
Yes.
That's only one of the 4, right? The next head would be the policy administration charges, perhaps. Is that the next big sort of cost?
Yeah, so the next big cost typically is the fund management cost.
Okay.
Earlier there was no cap on the fund management cost that the regulator had put. Now it has defined that the fund management cost cannot be more than 1.35%. So that compares very fair with mutual funds also.
Yes.
If you see the fund management charges in mutual, somewhere between the range of 1 to 1.5%, and this is somewhere in the middle. Most of the ULIPs charge up to the maximum level that is permitted, but it differs from, so one has to understand a ULIP product will have 6-7 variants within that.
Sure.
So there will be an equity product, there will be a debt product, there will be a liquid product, and there will be a combination of all this balance and everything.
Yes.
So for each of the variants, typically the charges vary. At the highest level, it is 1.35%, and it can go as low as 0.5% for a liquid product there.
Okay.
So that's the second big hit that's there.
So 4 to 10% is the first charge, the premium allocation charge. Then comes the fund management charge, which could be a maximum of 1.5%. What next? Which is the next big cost head?
The next typically big cost is the mortality cost. That's the insurance cost that you are bearing. It depends on the age of the person. It depends on the health issues of the person. And between, say, if you take the average example of a person who's 35 to 40 years old, he will be paying annual charge of around 2 to 3% on mortality cost.
2 to 3% of the premium?
2 to 3% of the sum assured.
Of the sum assured, yes.
Sum assured, yes. So it's obviously, but it depends on the age of the person and various other factors. As the age goes up, the charge keeps on rising. So when you buy a ULIP also, you may buy it at the age of 35, but every year as your age increases, the mortality cost will keep on increasing because your risk is increasing.
Sure.
So that's the third cost. You have to understand you may start at a lower cost, but it can go up, balloon up to 5-6% on an annual basis also.
Sure. Okay. Then we come to the
policy
administration charges.
Yeah. So policy admin charges, again, are typically in the range of around 0.25 to 0.3% every month. So that translates into 3 to 4% every year. So that's the big forehead which can eat away into your corpus.
Yeah.
The other thing that you have to always remember in ULIPs is that in a mutual fund, the NAV encompasses all the costs. So what happens is that when you compare a NAV to NAV difference, that's the net return that you get, including any kind of charges that are there. Whereas in a insurance or a ULIP, some of the costs are built into the NAV and some of the costs are outside the NAV, which means that they are charged to the investor by reduction of units. So every year, for example, the policy admin charge or the mortality cost, they are not built into your NAV. They are built by deducting your units. So every year, your units are reducing because of these costs. Okay. So the NAV does not reflect the net investor return in ULIPs. So sometimes people compare the NAV to NAV performance of ULIPs and mutual funds, and that's not the right way to...
which is why I want to talk to you about product complexity and transparency. Those are very important attributes, at least for me personally, as I look at sort of evaluating any financial product. But before we get to that, just sum this up. So all put together, now the charges have overall dropped because of the regulator coming down. At a ballpark level, what is the kind of total cost that is associated with ULIPs across the industry?
Yeah. As I said, now, there are two kinds of ULIPs that are there. One is the offline ULIPs, which are sold through a distribution channel. There, typically, the costs are higher, and these are the costs that we currently discuss are around in this range for these kind of ULIPs.
So, all put together as a percentage?
Yeah, so as I said, that is driven by regulation, wherein the maximum charge over a period of time. So, if an investor stays invested for 10 years, so if, let's break it down into first the 5 years, because 5 years is a lock-in in ULIP. You have to stay invested in ULIP for 5 years.
Right.
Before that, you cannot withdraw.
Right.
So if you stay invested in 5 years, the maximum charges on an annual basis that can be charged to you is 4%. Okay, so now so the regulator has put it on a sliding scale. So if you look at a 10-year, if you stay invested for 10 years, then the maximum charges that will bill to you annually will be around 3%.
Right.
And if you stay for 15 years, then it comes to around 2.25%. So this is the standard charges for offline ULIP, and this is the maximum caps that are defined by the regulator.
So what is the kind of sum assured I can look at through ULIP products, both type 1 and type 2? I mean, typically, what is the kind of premium that I end up paying? Because my priority, if I'm looking at an insurance company, first thing that should come to anybody's mind is insurance, so protection. I mean, that part of it should not be forgotten, right?
Sure.
So what is the kind of sum assured and what is the kind of average premium payout over the 5-year period or 10-year period that you sort of pay?
ULIP is a combination of investments plus and the reason ULIPs have got popular across the world is because over a period of time your mortality costs keep on reducing in a ULIP. In a term insurance, you will be paying a flat premium across all the ages.
Okay.
Here, because your insurance cover itself is reducing, your mortality costs keep on reducing. Okay. And that's more ideally suited for a situation. But it depends from individual to individual. The broad thumb rules that are there is that one should actually have a insurance cover of at least 10 times his annual salary. That's one starting point that people, it depends on each individual to individual, but that's usually the starting point that people look at. Reason why now ULIPs are getting more popular is that this combination with a lower cost is now very, very comparable to a mutual fund, and at some point of times, because of, as you rightly said, the long-term capital gains, and there are other benefits in ULIP also. For example, even if you're invested in a, now as I said, a ULIP has 5-6 different variants within that. You can say that 50% of my money will go into equity, the rest 50% will go into debt. Now, that even the debt component here becomes tax-free because, the maturity value that you get is here. So it's not that you just get a benefit on the tax in the equity part, only also on the debt part.
Okay.
The second part is that when you switch from one variant to another within the same ULIP, there are no costs involved. So there could be a switch fee of 50-100 rupees. That's not a significant cost, and there is no taxation involved. So if you go into a mutual fund, you will buy an equity scheme, and if you want to shift to a debt product at some point of time in your life cycle, you will have to pay taxation again there. Or if you want to switch from debt to equity, you want to increase allocation. So again, within the ULIP, when you shift, there are no charges and no taxes. So that makes them a little more efficient also.